Hey everybody, it's Peter here for a super fun and special webinar today. So excited to share with you something that myself and an amazing team are working on in secret for a year. And I'm excited for your feedback and involvement. So let me start. First of all, I've got two dear friends here, of course, Marissa Brassfield, who you all know, and I'll be introducing Morgan McDermott in a moment, who's the CTO of this new effort. So here's the background. You guys have heard me talk about forever how today's news media hijacks our amygdala and the crisis news network, and let me not go into this, basically takes your time and presents to you what they want you to hear. And the challenge is, how do you avoid the negative news and still get the news that is relevant to you in an abundance exponential universe? And so what I've been working on with Eben Pagan as a partner, dear brilliant entrepreneur friend, with Marissa Brassfield, and with Morgan McDermott, is something called Futureloop. And I'm here today to unveil it to you. And at the end of this, it's going to be an opportunity, if you're interested, no obligation for you to be early alpha users, zero cost. The first people to see this are my abundance community, you guys. And we've been iterating it, and we're finally at a point where we have an alpha version for feedback. So here's the challenge, right? We're living in a world where the amount of information is literally growing exponentially. There is an explosion of entrepreneurial companies, an explosion of technology developments, and this is even before what's going to happen in 2020, 2022, which is another 4 billion people coming on Earth. So if you're living in a world of this massive increase in innovation and breakthroughs happening every day, how do you figure out which of those technologies are relevant to you and your business? And it's hard, right? Because you either depend on some third party who doesn't know you to provide the information to you, or you're at a loss. And so what we've done is we've built a product. It's an app for your phone that is called Futureloop. And I'm super excited about it as a mechanism to give you the key information that you need to know. And this is key information for you as a CEO, for you as an entrepreneur, for you as the head of a program, whatever place you are. And I'm going to give you general context, and then I'm going to introduce Morgan, who had been building this with his team, and we'll take it from there. So here's the concept. There are great search engines, and those search engines include Google and Baidu and others, and there are places like Google News where you can put search terms, and Google News can search for those pieces of information. But you'll get all of this information that comes to you in topics you're interested in, but the question is, you're still going to be deluged in an abundance of stories of information. And how do you know which of those are the most important for you to get? So if at the end of the day, you have just 20 or 30 minutes to review the breakthroughs that have occurred in the entire technology universe, and try and prioritize those that are most important to you, it'd be really difficult. So what Futureloop has done has created a product which has a rocking AI layer, which Morgan and his team have built, and will explain it to you, and then a social layer. And I want you to imagine a scenario in which, imagine if you had a team of 20 inside your organization, 30 inside your organization. If it's the abundance group of us, we've got 108 people online right now. We're going to be able, by the way, to accommodate about half of you in our user group. So we'll talk about that afterwards in our test user group. But imagine if you could have an AI layer that basically searches the world for the most important breaking news, that has a future positive index going forward, and is relevant to the things that you've been searching on. So this is what Google News does. But imagine if on top of that, there was a layer that said, my loop, my 20 people who are working with my company have each voted up and voted down these articles. So at the end of the day, I'm able to see what my community has judged as the 5 most important articles that I need to read and that we as a company need to discuss. So these are the technologies that have come into existence today that could disrupt us, we'll be focusing on. So this is a means of using both AI, machine learning, and also your social graph within your company, within your intellectual sphere, if you would, to prioritize those articles. And then there's a bunch of other benefits that are coming out of it. But let me just at this moment introduce Morgan McDermott. Morgan is our CTO, one of the co-creators of this app. He's been working with machine learning, honestly, since before it was machine learning for a decade now. Morgan, a pleasure, pal.
Happy to be here.
So walk us through. What do you build?
So this product really excites me because we're finally at a time when machine learning and artificial intelligence has reached a level of competency that is matching humans and exceeding humans in so many areas, from image recognition, text recognition, understanding the actual semantic concepts that are latent in text is now actually becoming a possibility. We're getting there. And it's coming at a time when we need this more than ever because there's such a huge abundance of information we have to sift through. So what I'd like to present to you is the basic idea for the Futureloop technology. Let me get my presentation on here. Okay, go back to the beginning. So the basic idea of Futureloop is to take information, this huge abundance of information that's impossible to parse through as a human anymore. There's too much of it. To take that, to use artificial intelligence, crowd intelligence, and to turn that information into knowledgeable and into actionable knowledge and insights. And the way we do that begins with our Discover feed, which is populated by our artificial intelligence. So we've developed a number of deep neural networks and a machine learning infrastructure that parses through millions of articles to find those that are actually relevant to the future. So in a sense, this is the opposite of what Google News or Apple News or any normal news provider does. What a normal news provider does is they take in information, they see what's popular, and then they give that to you. This is sort of the opposite. We're saying what's meaningful, and then how do we let the crowd parse through that to figure out what's actually relevant to your particular self-selected group, your particular social graph that's actually more intelligent than the masses as a whole. So we have our Discover feed that gives you articles selected just for you based on your topics that's filtered through this layer of artificial intelligence. Then you have the layer of crowd intelligence on top of it, where you get this organic, wetware human insight from your social graph that allows you to see the top articles each day so you know this is what my network thinks is critical based on this artificially intelligently selected subset of all of the information in the world that's coming out on a daily basis. So the net of it is that you have 100% of information coming into the system. The AI filters it down to 1%, really less than 1% of that information is relevant to the future. And then once your group and network and crowd sort of filters through that, yet again, you're left with your top daily articles that are hyper relevant to you in whichever loops and groups of people you're associating with and whoever's minds you're trying to form into these sort of hive minds and get that intelligence from.
And Morgan, let me just intercept 1 second and say that you as a user of Futureloop, will be able to set your own loop. So for example, I'm sitting here at X Prize, I will create an X Prize loop, and it might be all 80 employees here at X Prize. There may be a smaller loop of, say, the 15 employees working on the Global Learning X Prize in Tanzania. I might have my own loop that is at Planetary Resources or a loop at Human Longevity. And so that loop of individuals that I create is contextually each looking at information relevant to our loop, to our company, to the group that we created.
Exactly, yeah. And this layer of AI news analysis that is just now able to be produced by modern techniques and technologies being pioneered at Facebook and Google and universities around the world is really the key to unlocking the second part of this. Applying crowd intelligence to the mass information that's coming out simply doesn't work because humans aren't capable of processing through that volume of information. But having this layer of AI that filters it down to 1/100th of its size so that your crowd intelligence can actually parse it and find the extraordinarily relevant components of it, discuss it, and vote them up in your loops gives you this result of having exactly the information you need as soon as it comes out. So what I'd like to do now is take you on a little tour of the app itself. And these are sort of the human engineering components of this entire endeavor. These are the interfaces and structure through which you get to interact with this AI and this crowd intelligence to extract the information that you really need in your life and business. So to start with, every day as a Futureloop user, you will swipe through a daily 5 articles. And what this does is allows you with a single motion, a left, right, or down swipe, to post articles to your loops, upvote articles, and downvote articles. So it's maximizing the amount of information you're sharing with your loop. It's maximizing the amount of information you're exposed to while minimizing the amount of actual effort required to dive in and get to the information that really matters to you. So every day, you can swipe these articles left or right. The system learns from each swipe what's relevant to you and what's not relevant to you.
So the system overnight is collecting articles, and in the morning, it's basically saying, hey, Peter, Morgan, Marissa, here's 5 articles. And by you taking a few seconds to swipe right, left, or down, so plus, up, minus, or neutral, that is giving, those articles are then being voted up into your loop, removed from your loop, or neutral. And basically, as 20 people inside your organization do that, all of a sudden, there starts to be contextual prioritization of which articles are most relevant to you. So this is how the system gets boot started every day. Now, by the way, if you don't have the time to do that, you can skip your daily 5. Or if you have extra time and you want additional points, because this whole thing is gamified, you can make it your daily 10 or daily 20 and get additional points in the system.
Exactly. Exactly right. The system's going out, collecting these articles from hundreds of trusted news sources. And by the way, we filter it down to 1% of the news coming in from trusted sources. So this isn't a broad crawl of every single source on the internet. So even from those trusted sources that you would normally find quality content from, we're reducing it down to 1% of that and feeding you only the parts of it that are relevant to you, your interests, and the future. So after you do your daily 5, once you complete this, you can return to the app after your loop has thanked you for increasing their intelligence and the amount of information you're sharing with them.
This is a little dopamine hit to make everybody sort of get to the end.
Exactly, exactly. Then you're presented with a unified feed. This is a single place where with one action, scrolling down, you can see all the information that your loops think is relevant for that particular day. So with just a few swipes, you can be confident that you've seen all the information that matters to the smartest people you know. Once you get to the bottom, it lets you know that all the critical articles are read, so you can get another dopamine hit knowing, okay, I'm on top of it. I have insight into the future. I know what's going to be happening here. You can dive into an individual loop.
So at the top over here, there is, you can see Futureloop Public, Abundance Digital, and so forth. If you have multiple loops, multiple groups that you use this with, you'll be able to scroll and see how each loop is prioritizing the information relevant to that loop. So I'll see an X Prize loop, a human longevity loop, a planetary resources loop, etc.
Exactly. Exactly. Reload the debugger here for a second.
So one of the things that you'll see at the top of each of those loops is a circular face and a number. So if you have 20 people in your loop, and those individuals are finding articles or voting up articles, every time they're contributing to the loop, they're getting a additional point. So that at the end of the day, if you're the CEO and you've created a loop around your employees, you can actually see which of your employees is doing the most work to help evaluate the technology out there.
Exactly. So the other key of this entire technology is your Discover feed. It's going out and searching for articles relevant to your particular topics that you told the system that you're interested in. This allows you to find something, an article that you like, say this one, click on it, and it instantly has an auto-generated summary that our AI has decided is relevant to the article. So if you want to share an article with a loop, you don't have to write out a full title and summary and do all this work. Instead, you just tap once, it's summarized, and then you can pick which loop you want to post it to.
So I love what Morgan built here, right? It literally, it generates a title, it generates a summary, a 2 or 3 line summary, it grabs a photo, and it does this automatically for you. And then you can post it to one or a number of your loops with a comment and an upvote, and basically make sure that your people know, yes, I love this article, you should be reading this.
Exactly. The whole system's designed to reduce the friction of sharing information so that you can see the most prioritized information for you, and there is no human element preventing that from being optimal. At the top here, you can see that Discover keeps track of your topic. So in my case, this is searching through 30-something topics: AI system, quantum optimization, Brian Johnson, neural lace, recursive neural network. And you can modify these so the system's looking for content that's most relevant to you, and it's also learning over time.
By the way, I love the questions coming in, and please continue to go through those. We'll turn to the questions in a few minutes.
Awesome. So the other aspect of this entire endeavor is that we're just at the beginning of rolling out and giving users access to the AI technology that we're building. So right now we have this layer of AI filtration that's learning to understand the news. We have this layer of crowd intelligence that's filtering all that information. But we're also utilizing the technologies we built to help you understand the news better and have more insight into it. This is a beta version of a new technology rolling out called Ask an Article, where you can literally ask an article anything. So if you're interested in whether or not a company got investment, or what challenges they might be facing, or what their business strategy is, you can ask it any sort of natural language question, or you can just click a button and get extracted phrases that are relevant from the article. All this tech is in beta, but we want to get you into the system because the more users we have and the more data we have flowing through it, the more we can analyze and figure out what's relevant, what's not relevant, and learn from human behavior. So,
Morgan, can we talk about one of my favorites, the virtual loops?
Oh, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah. Can I pitch this one?
Totally.
And then have you do the actual hard work.
Yeah.
So here's my question, right? So imagine if you could create your own loop that include Elon Musk, Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, Ray Kurzweil. Pick your favorite people and say, okay, here's 10 tech rock stars. If those guys were on Futureloop, what articles would they be prioritizing every day? And so we're building the virtual avatars of those individuals. They may join themselves, like, Elon's a massive Twitter user. I hope he'll become a Futureloop user. But we're creating what's called a virtual loop with digital avatars of these individuals. And Morgan, how does it work?
Awesome. So the way it works fundamentally is we're utilizing technologies that have only recently been developed, frankly. So the reinforcement learning algorithms that allowed AlphaGo to defeat the world Go player is the same tech that we're using here. Reinforcement learning is a particularly interesting area of research because reinforcement learning can combine with any other type of AI. It sort of wraps it. So you can use 1980s technology like decision trees, or more modern technology like a long, short-term gated memory network. And that's what we're doing here to combine the sort of semantic understanding of articles to say, well, what would a Peter avatar want to upvote? What would Ray Kurzweil upvote in our system if he were using it? And we're combining that with the AI agent reinforcement learning technology, where you make that understanding actually take an action in the world. And so we're going to basically throw a bunch of these avatars together into a loop and see what not only Peter and Ray might upvote, but when you put them together, what are the top articles each day from all the sources on the internet that's been filtered and parsed? what together would those AI agents create? And this is a fascinating area of research and something that we're going to be rolling out access to our beta users to in the next few weeks. So particularly excited about this. As well as giving insights into individual articles and trying to allow you to each day find the most important articles for you to read so that you cultivate an abundance mindset and also are capable of predicting what's going to happen in the future. We're working on technology so that you can step back and gain a broad, wide view of all of the articles that are being posted. So knowing, for example, that conversation on the internet about drones is on the rise is very relevant and important. If you also knew at the same time that conversation about drones was becoming more or less future-oriented, so whether or not people are talking about, oh, okay, we should incorporate AI with drones, and that's going to be the future. Seeing these trends over time and then seeing the intersectional topics is a way to get a level of insight that you literally can't get anywhere else currently. And this is what we're building out in a platform we're calling Predictive Intelligence that'll let you see trends and intersectional topics over time so that you can have the broad view, drill in to look at individual articles, and then utilize technology like Ask an Article to get the specific information you need to make the decisions that are important to your business or get the information to sculpt your mindset in your everyday life. So all of these technologies are just now precipitating, and I'm really excited to get it in the hands of all of you.
So let's jump into some questions. I mean, there's so many features that Morgan and Sebastian and others have been building, but it's let's get to some Q&A. And really what I want to do is ultimately get this in the hands of, we've got 124 on this right now. I think we can accommodate 50, but so that's fine. We'll figure that out afterwards. At the end of the day, let's go through some of the questions. Marissa, would you parse and prioritize the questions?
Absolutely. So great job, Morgan, and thanks, Peter.
Yes. Excellent.
First one comes from Francis. How does Futureloop filter out fake news?
I can tackle this one a bit. So fake news is fundamentally challenging, and there are numerous AI startups that are working on this. The primary challenge is that information is just information, and conflicting opinions don't necessarily mean that something's fake news. But what our platform has kind of implicitly discovered that's very relevant is that topics that are fundamentally future-oriented and conversation around those topics tend to correlate with non-fake news. So one of the interesting bits that we've observed in our analysis of data is that one of our internal metrics for articles called Future Score, which tells you how future-oriented an article is or not, correlates highly with both positive sentiment, even though we didn't train it on that specifically, and filtering out fake news. So it's sort of an implicit aspect of our platform, but not something that we're explicitly tackling right now.
Great. Next one. Missy Wong wants to know, is Futureloop collecting articles within a certain time period? And if so, what is that certain time period?
So it's constantly collecting articles. Whenever we give it access to a new news site, it will scrape all of the archives as well for reference and to have that for our training data. It's constantly going out and scraping and finding the newest and latest information for you.
I've got a couple questions about how the summaries are written for each article presented. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Totally. So in natural language processing, there's two types of summary generation. You can have abstractive summary generation, which means that you're actually creating novel sentences that condense the information from a piece of text and put it into a more consumable form. And then you have extractive summarization, which is where you actually extract bits of information from the article, individual sentences or portions of sentences, and compose those together into a better summary. And technology for abstractive summarization isn't there yet. There's basically no research that allows you to create from scratch a new sentence that fully summarizes an article the way a human could. However, extractive summarization has advanced by leaps and bounds in the past 18 months alone due to breakthroughs in recurrent neural networks. And those are the technologies that we're using to generate these extractive summaries. So basically, We feed the article into our neural networks. It says these 3 sentences best represent the content and overall gist of this article, and here they are for you to use.
Fabulous. Dr. Yomi, who is in Africa, wants to know, will it help filter out new medical technology that I'll be interested in to improve healthcare in Africa?
That's an awesome question. So Futureloop allows you to follow any topics that you're interested in. So if you put in Africa and medical technologies, maybe you're interested in something in particular, like the advancements of nanotech or molecular manufacturing. In addition, in combination with these things, and the system will go out, find those articles for you, and present to you the ones that are most relevant to the future.
A great one from Pete. Are posthumous avatars possible for a virtual loop, e.g. Einstein, Feynman?
Ooh, I love this one. That's a fantastic idea, and the answer is yes. So we base the avatars off of people's textual digital footprints in most cases. So we're using Twitter data and data from their interactions with Futureloop, if we happen to have celebrities like Peter here interacting with our system. So posthumously, we can extract these avatars from any text. So we could plug Einstein's books and his research papers into our system, analyze them, and create an avatar based on that text information, certainly.
This next one is from John. Does this app identify original or scientific papers?
So our app currently scrapes a number of open journals and incorporates that into the normal data flow. So we look at ResearchGate and PLOS and a bunch of these sources. Identifying them as a separate type is not something our system does yet, but I could see that being really useful in the future. Being able to search specifically for research papers, for example, would allow you to have a lot of the functionality of something like Semantic Scholar, which is being developed over at the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence right here in Seattle. So definitely.
By the way, guys, a lot of the questions you're asking, I mean, what I want to do with you is help create something that's actually useful for you. And so as we explore this, the feedback from this community to create those tools that are going to allow you to better anticipate where technology is going, how do you skate to where the puck is going to be, what is information that keeps you in a positive mindset that gives you an unfair advantage against people who are overwhelmed and are just getting what some other news service is feeding them versus the news that is most relevant to them.
Exactly. And right along with that, Francis's question, is this like a personal research assistant? And separately, how close are we to Jarvis from Iron Man?
Two great questions. It is very much like a personal research assistant, especially because you can drill into articles. With Ask an Article, you can ask about a particular aspect that you're interested in, whether that be funding, the technology, or maybe you see an article about a new method for curing cancer and you're interested to see whether it utilizes CRISPR. You can search for that and it'll find relevant DNA-based technologies and references to those in there. Combine that with our Discover search engine, where you can plug in an arbitrary query and retrieve articles that are not only relevant to what you're looking for, but also relevant to the future and determined as important by our AI. I think it's certainly a personal digital assistant. As far as Jarvis goes, I think we are farther than I would like us to be away. I would like Jarvis today. A lot of the hurdles are being addressed. If you saw the most recent Google Assistant demo, where it called up a hair salon and made an order or made a scheduled appointment for the user completely autonomously, you'll see that the technology is certainly getting to a pretty advanced level. The core hurdle here is developing actually a model of conceptual understanding so that the intelligence would be able to comprehend the details of what's happening rather than just responding in a more autonomous fashion.
By the way, let me interject something real quick. If this is something you're interested in participating with as a alpha user of our test group, and just to be clear, it's going to have bugs, it's going to have challenges, but you have a chance to play with it before anybody else and give us feedback and work with our team and actually get the benefits of being in a abundance digital loop with your colleagues. If this is of interest to you, I'm going to ask you to send an email just saying, yes, I'm in, or I'm interested, whatever, with your name and email. I know we have that, but we're going to use that to parse it. And please send that to futureloop@diamandis.com, to that email. The word future, L-O-O-P, futureloop@diamandis.com. We'll be posting that as well. So again, we've got 126 on here. We can accommodate roughly half of you, but please go ahead and do that. Let's continue with some of the questions. I see, I saw one from my friend Richard Kane as well there. Where is it? There it is. Richard asks, have you looked at any measurements on the quality or sentiment of writing, e.g. Lexile level or mood as part of the scoring system?
Definitely. So
Richard's a fellow amazing machine learning brilliant scientist.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Okay. So it's really intriguing, right? Because sentiment and generating these sort of extracted features on top of the data, where you might say, let's not just feed the word level representations of this article into our neural network and see what happens, but let's also feed in some extracted features like, say, sentiment, mood, or other analyses, is something we've played with. It actually didn't improve the performance of our classifier. And I think part of this comes down to the fact that some recent research you may have come across was that as Google was training, I forget the type of neural network. It was training a neural network to consume information and classify it. And they found that the activity of one particular neuron in the neural network correlated extremely strongly with sentiment that was otherwise calculated, meaning that in order to understand English text, neural nets at some point have realized that that sentiment is an inherent property in text that it needs to understand just to make other predictions. And it's sort of an interesting observation that might explain why we don't have to actually do separate sentiment calculation to achieve the same classification performance.
Awesome. I love this question from Chris. Curious, Peter, was there a defining moment that prompted you to want to build this?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that at the end of the day, I can't stand putting on the news. And I realized that when I even do Google news searches, which is what I've been using up till date, most of the stuff there is still not relevant to me. And I felt like if there was a mechanism that I could have my team sort of search the news and like feed me the stuff that was most relevant. At the same time, our wonderful Marissa has been doing Abundance Insider, and that's been manually curated for some time, and is like, okay, we're living in the 22nd century, might as well use machine learning and AI. And so I do morning walks, and Eben Pagan, who's been a friend for many, many years, he's a brilliant entrepreneur who's built massive communities. More on him, and you'll meet him at Abundance 360 this year as well. Anyway, we were having morning talk. This conversation led to a let's build this, and then he brought in Blake, who brought in Morgan, and Morgan is now our CTO, who's brought in Sebastian. Anyway, long story short, it gelled, and I want this so badly for myself, and that's the best indicator of something I'm willing to invest my hard money into.
Perfect. This next one is from Cheryl. What's the criteria to be considered as a beta user, and are there investment opportunities with this?
So you're here, which is the first criteria. Just send us an enthusiastic email. I don't need you to be pitching it. We will accommodate as many people as we can. If we have to, we will consider setting up 2 beta groups. So please just send that email. Again, futureloop@diamandis.com. Right now, Eben and I are funding it ourselves. If we open it up for investment, happily open it up to the community as well. But right now, there's not.
Got a couple questions about languages. Are we language limited? What is the language plan?
Definitely. So our system supports the necessary character encodings to store Chinese, Japanese, any UTF-32 encodable languages, which is all of them. Our machine learning models are trained only on English text at this time, though. So we're processing only English language news at the time.
Morgan, I mean, I assume that we could expand it. I mean, our biggest part of our bill, I think, is Amazon Cloud these days. But Amazon Cloud can handle it.
Definitely, yes. We can train the same machine learning models on corpuses from other languages and expand out there.
I've got another one from Brendan. What is your API roadmap?
So I assume by API roadmap, you mean a roadmap for building a publicly accessible application programming interface where you could query Futureloop and say, oh, how futuristic is this piece of information? Or could I please have some articles that are relevant to drones and 3D printing? That is something that we have considered tangentially down the road. But at the current time, we're not looking at building out something that's completely publicly interfaceable.
Guys, let me just mention something that's important. I'm sharing this system with you in confidence. I appreciate if you don't tweet about it, write about it. This is meant to be internal. We're keeping this confidential, and I just want to make it available to the Abundance Digital community first. So keep it to yourselves. It's a sort of an honorable NDA, if you would. Clearly, we're building something we hope will be exciting and useful for the world, and we'll unveil it. I like to give birth to ideas above the line of super credibility and not leak it out. So when it's time to announce it, you'll be part of that announcement as well.
Will this be predictive for the stock or option market?
That is an interesting question and something that we've considered playing with on the back end, but it's not something that we're immediately training all the algorithms and tuning them for. Ultimately, we want to give people the predictive insights that allow them to see where the hockey puck's going, not where it is. So inherent in that, there's a lot of capability of predicting other people's assessments of the value of different technologies over time in markets like the stock market and other prediction markets.
I think that one of the things that is an element of the future version of this is really is as Morgan said, the predictive nature. And if you have a circle or a loop of individuals that are more knowledgeable about a topic because they've been filtering up every possible news and discussing it, then that loop is going to be able to make better sort of crowdsourced predictions than one that's just randomly selected.
Definitely. And we have technology that we're building out and testing along those lines, and that you may get access to in the coming months possibly as well.
Let's grab a few more, and then we can wrap and I can talk about the fun, incredible experiment we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah. So here's one from Andy. What's the most surprising or new insight that you found so far?
I'd say the most surprising insight, at least from a data science perspective, is the way that FutureScore, for example, correlates with sentiment. It's kind of an interesting observation that news that is relevant and useful to the future tends to be more positive, which reinforces in many ways, I think, Peter's abundance mindset. And just looking at the future and trying to predict where things are going, analyzing technologies, it's inherently a positive human activity. So that was kind of an interesting observation.
Great. Here's one from Karen. Can the technology link readers of similar content, like creators suggest community loops of people interested in similar topics?
Definitely something that's possible given the analysis and data we have. And I love your suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the kind of suggestions that will help, add features and develop the directions we go. At the end of the day, I'm driving a app for a user of one, me. Just very, very selfishly and bluntly, I'm trying to build something that I want to have and use and help for me to do the work I do in supporting you better. And ultimately, we want to create an app that has the diversification to meet all of your individual needs. I should say myself and Marissa. Marissa's a heavy user of this too.
I gotta say, I'm very excited to digitize the curation that I've done through Abundance Insider the last few years. This next one is from Missy. Curious about your thoughts regarding Futureloop and blockchain prediction markets, where questions are asked and voted on. Some thoughts there.
Definitely, especially in connection with some of the internal tools and tests we've created utilizing sort of crowd prediction in combination with the future-oriented filtering technologies we built. I can see a lot of potential there. Prediction markets like Augur have performed very well at different tasks. Unu, of course, correctly predicted the top, 4 or 5 finishers in the Kentucky Derby in order. There is a ton of potential here in that space, so definitely.
Yeah, expect there to be a prediction layer for your loop. So if your loop is in the auto industry, and you can imagine one of the car companies, the engineering division of a car company having, 20 executives that are on a loop together, and their Discover feed has got terms around LiDAR development and NVIDIA and autonomous cars and Waymo, and all the stuff is coming in, and every day these 20 engineers are voting it up so that the CEO of Ford Motor or GM is reading this loop about autonomous cars, that eventually that CEO would be able to say, okay, I'm going to ask for a prediction of when we're going to see the first autonomous car drive across country or whatever it might be. And that loop, because it's been reading that information, is more knowledgeable, and their ability to make a prediction may be a lot stronger. There could be a token on connected here where people stake their prediction, and that measures the strength of their prediction. And then you get to something more like Augur. So that, for us, it's getting the right information into the wetware that then allows the next step.
Dan wants to know, what are the hardware limitations, if any?
So fortunately, because of AWS and our generous monthly AWS budget, the hardware limitation, it's mostly cash flow limitations, actually, not hardware, because ultimately, especially with the latest generation of AWS servers that are run by amazingly, incredibly powerful NVIDIA GPUs, what's capable even on a single dedicated box is just amazing these days. So no hardware limitations in sight.
How does this differentiate different from Google News, where I put some search terms?
Definitely. So Google News is focused on saying, I want to show you the news that is the most interesting to you, possibly to garner your engagement. And much like Facebook, algorithms that are attempting to prioritize news that will capture your attention and bring you in is fundamentally different than an algorithm that's searching for news that will be useful to you. Because engagement is one indicator of usefulness, but alone it can be misleading, because a cat video can also be very engaging. But we're looking to go beyond the cat video. We're looking to go beyond the sensational headlines that draw you in, and instead show you the information that's actually relevant to the future of the topic that you're looking at.
And one of the things that's important is we've created, when you go out, so you have your daily 5 or daily 10 or daily 20, you can choose that you, in the morning, enter into your loop. And if you have 20 people in your loop, everyone's putting it in and it's reinforcing it and stuff bubbles to the top. But there may be in your loop where you say, wow, this article is so important, and you're going to go out there and find that article. It could be through Discover, it could be either website. There's a website plugin that allows you to get an article into the loop. And then you have the ability to comment on it. And at the end of the day, my hope and my belief is that you're going to be basically trying to get your article to the top so that the CEO of your company reads that article and you can have a discussion about it. So there is an entire gamification layer that's on this that we're focused on. And then one of the cool things that Morgan has developed is a daily email summary. Morgan, you want to mention that?
Definitely. So every day you'll get an email from Futureloop showing you the top articles in all of your loops. So even if you don't log into the app that day, or no matter what, you'll have this permanently recorded archive where you can go in and you can say, okay, today, what are the most important 3 articles I need to see according to my friends who are nanotech experts? And you have it right there. You have the leaderboard that will motivate those nanotech experts to contribute. If they've contributed, they'll be higher up on the leaderboard. And so you have this sort of incentivized contribution, and you get a just distilled, crystallized version of the most important things that happen in the world that day, relative not only to the future, but your particular focus, whether that's medicine in Africa or, developing new AI drone tech.
All right, Marissa, I don't want to burden people. We've taken a bunch of your time, guys. In success, we'll answer all your questions, and just looking for this to be a community of individuals who are using information in a positive sense, not to ignite your amygdala, but to ignite your MTPs and your moonshots and help you do amazing things in the world. So this is a tool. It will always be free to you guys, and our goal is to get in the hands of millions of people and shift the mindset from Crisis News Network to one of abundance and exponential and empowerment. So that's the goal. Again, please, if you'd like to play with us, send an email to futureloop@diamandis.com, and then we'll be getting out the alpha of the technology to you at the end of next week, the beginning of the following week. I'll send you a video with how to use it, how to get on the system, and then we're going to watch ultimately what you do. If you get on the first time and never go on again, that's going to be a lesson to us. If you get on and you abandon it in some ways, so we're going to be watching your behavior. We're going to be in one loop together. It's going to be an abundance digital loop, and so we're going to see what's important to this community. And then eventually, once we unleash into the wild, you can go and build a loop at your kid's school, at your church, at your tech company, at your university, wherever you are, and create your own loops, as many of them as you wish. So futureloop@diamandis.com. And Morgan, you're a rock star, dude. Thank you so much. And thank you to you, to Sebastian, Marissa. Always, you've been just a critical part of this. Two more things before we jump out. Tomorrow, super fun. Tomorrow, if you join me, it's going to be at 1 p.m. We're going to be, it's my friend Philip Rosedale, the creator of Second Life and the CEO of High Fidelity. And let me back up. About 3 weeks ago, I went to San Francisco and I was digitally scanned. And so they created a digital avatar of me, and my digital avatar and Philip's digital avatar are going into a virtual world in High Fidelity and having a fireside chat. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be also demonstrating the ability for items to go on the blockchain in and out of the real world and the virtual world. Anyway, it's going to be amazing. Marissa will post to all of you how to get involved. There's a really limited number of people who can be in the virtual world, and we've got a large waiting list, but there's going to be another way to view it. So if you want, join me. And then on June 18th at 11 a.m., I'm going to be sharing with you a platform called republic.co, which I'm using to invest in cryptocurrency tokenized companies. And this is a platform that filters, the thousands, I'm going to say tens of thousands of companies that are being tokenized right now to the highest quality ones, and allows you to participate. More on that in an email I'll be sending to you guys. But so June 8th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific time, put on your calendar. And then June 18th, 10 days later at 11 a.m. Pacific time, about republic.co. We'll be sending you more information about that. Anyway, thank you all for taking the time. I wish you, is today Friday? Oh, what's today? No, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. Okay. I was in New York this morning, so I have no idea where I am or what day it is. Well, if you're taking Friday off, have a great weekend. Talk to you guys soon. Bye now.